Imagine this. A man you've followed for years. Someone you've seen perform miracles. Someone you believed would change everything is suddenly arrested, beaten, and executed like a common criminal. Everything you hoped for is gone. But then, 3 days later, you hear whispers. An empty tomb. A missing body. A rumor that he's alive. Easter isn't just about chocolate eggs and a long weekend. It's a story of pain, betrayal, hope, and love so deep it rewrote history. But here's the thing, Easter is more than just the resurrection. It's about what happened before the tomb was empty, and why it matters for us today. Stick around because in this video we're diving into the deeper meaning of Easter. Not just the moment Jesus walked out of the tomb, but the entire journey leading up to it. Why did Jesus have to suffer? What was the real battle happening behind the scenes? And how does this ancient story still apply to your life today? Let's go back to where it all began. It's Passover night in Jerusalem. Jesus is sitting with his closest friends, sharing what'll be their last meal together. At this table, something heavy is hanging in the air. Jesus knows what's coming: the betrayal, the pain, the cross. He looks at his disciples, the people he's poured his life into, and says something shocking. One of you will betray me. Imagine the tension. These are his closest friends, but Jesus isn't just talking about Judas. He knows that in the coming hours, Peter will deny him. The others will scatter in fear. Yet he doesn't lash out. He takes bread, breaks it, and says, "This is my body, given for you." He takes a cup of wine. "This is my blood, poured out for the forgiveness of sins." In this moment, Jesus redefines everything. The Passover meal wasn't just about Israel's freedom from Egypt anymore. It was about a greater freedom. Freedom from sin, from separation from God. After the Last Supper, Jesus and his disciples leave the upper room and walk to the Garden of Gethsemane, a quiet place just outside Jerusalem. It's late at night, the city's asleep, but for Jesus, this is the beginning of his darkest hour. This moment in the garden is one of the most human scenes in Jesus' entire story. Up until now, he's been preaching, healing, and performing miracles. But now, he's alone with his thoughts, facing the weight of what's to come. He falls to his knees and begins to pray. "Father, if it's possible, take this cup from me, but not my will, but yours be done." Think about that. The Son of God, the one who walked on water and calmed storms, is now wrestling with fear. He's in such distress that Luke 22:44 says his sweat was like drops of blood falling to the ground. This isn't just poetic language. There's actually a medical condition called hematidrosis, where extreme stress can cause blood vessels to burst, mixing blood with sweat. That's how much pressure Jesus was under. But here's what's powerful. This was the real battle. The cross was coming, but the decision to go through with it, that happened here, in the garden. Why was Jesus so distressed? Well, it wasn't just the physical pain he was about to endure. It was something much deeper. He would bear the sin of all the world. Every betrayal, every injustice, every evil act in human history, he would carry it all. He would be separated from the Father for the first time in eternity. He would experience the full weight of sin's consequence, separation from God. Imagine the deepest loneliness you've ever felt. Jesus was about to experience something far worse, and yet he still chose to go through with it. While Jesus is in agony, he asks his disciples, his closest friends, to stay awake and pray with him. But they fell asleep. 3 times Jesus wakes them up, and 3 times they fail. "Couldn't you stay awake with me for 1 hour?" he asks. It's almost ironic. Jesus is about to go through the hardest moment of his life, and his friends can't even stay awake to support him. And yet, this is us. How often do we fall asleep spiritually? How often do we fail to pray when we need to the most? Jesus understood. That's why he said the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. Matthew 26:41. As Jesus finishes praying, he hears footsteps. A group of soldiers arrives, led by Judas, one of his own disciples. And how does Judas betray him? With a kiss. "Judas, are you betraying the Son of Man with a kiss?" Luke 22:48. This was a signal to the soldiers, a sign of respect twisted into an act of betrayal. One of the disciples, John tells us it was Peter, grabs his sword and cuts off the ear of the high priest's servant. He's ready to fight, but Jesus stops him. "Put your sword away. Those who live by the sword will die by the sword." Then, in a final act of mercy, Jesus heals the servant's ear, healing the very people who came to arrest him. But why didn't Jesus fight back? Because he knew the battle wasn't won with swords. It was won through surrender. This wasn't just a betrayal, it was a choice. Jesus could have called down legions of angels to defend him, but instead, he willingly surrendered, choosing the cross over escape. Well, what can we learn from the garden? Number one, Jesus understands our struggles. If you've ever felt overwhelmed, anxious, or afraid of what's ahead, remember, Jesus has been there too. Number two, prayer is where battles are won. Jesus didn't wait until the crisis to hit pray. He prepared in advance. Do we? Number three, surrender is not weakness. Jesus' greatest act of strength wasn't fighting. It was surrendering to God's will. The garden was the turning point. From this moment on, Jesus never hesitated. He had made his choice, and the road to the cross had begun. Jesus is dragged before the religious leaders, then before Pilate, the Roman governor. They throw false accusations at him. They mock him, spit on him, and beat him. Pilate knows Jesus is innocent, but the crowd, they want blood. "Crucify him," they shout. Pilate caves to pressure. He washes his hands, literally, trying to avoid responsibility. But the decision is made. Jesus is sentenced to death. And here's where it gets crazy. The people choose to release Barabbas, a violent criminal, while Jesus, the innocent one, takes his place. Ever been blamed for something you didn't do? Jesus experienced that too. But even deeper, Barabbas is us. We're the ones who deserve punishment, yet Jesus took our place. Jesus is forced to carry his own cross through the streets of Jerusalem. The same crowd that cheered for him days ago now watches him collapse under its weight. Roman soldiers nail him to the cross, and as he hangs there, suffering, people mock him. "If you're really the Son of God, save yourself." But Jesus doesn't fight back. Instead, he says, "Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing." At noon, darkness covers the land, and then, in his final moments, Jesus cries out, "It is finished," and he dies. The earth shakes. The temple curtain is torn in two. Something cosmic has just happened. The price of sin, the separation between humanity and God, has been paid. Have you ever felt like you weren't good enough for God? Like your mistakes define you? Well, this moment proves otherwise. Jesus died because of his love for you. The darkest moment in history had passed. Jesus had been crucified, his body sealed in a tomb, and his followers were in hiding, lost, afraid, and filled with doubt. But then, everything changed. It's early Sunday morning. The city is quiet. A small group of women, including Mary Magdalene, head to the tomb where Jesus' body was laid. They're bringing spices to anoint his body, the final act of love and mourning. But when they arrive, the stone is rolled away. The tomb is empty. Panic sets in. Where is his body? Has someone stolen it? Then suddenly 2 men dressed in dazzling white appear. Why do you look for the living among the dead? He's not here. He's risen. Luke 24:5-6. Imagine the shock. The grief that had weighed them down for 3 days was shattered in an instant. But here's the thing. They didn't fully understand it yet. They run to tell the disciples, but when the disciples hear the news, they don't believe them. Even after everything Jesus has said about rising from the dead, they doubt. That evening, the disciples are gathered behind locked doors, terrified of what might happen next. And then, Jesus appears right in the middle of them. "Peace be with you." John 20:19. They're stunned, frozen. Is this real? So Jesus shows them his wounds. He lets them touch his hands and side. He's not a ghost. He's real, alive. And in this moment, everything clicks. The fear, the doubt, the hopelessness, it all fades. Because if Jesus conquered death, what else could be impossible? But not everyone was there that night. One disciple, Thomas, missed it. And when the others tell him what happened, he doesn't buy it. "Unless I see the nail marks in his hands and put my finger where the nails were, I will not believe." John 20:25. Sound familiar? How often do we struggle with doubt? How often do we think, if I could just see the proof, then I'd believe? A week later, Jesus appears again. This time, Thomas is there. And Jesus, knowing Thomas's doubts, invites him to touch his wounds. Thomas falls to his knees and says, "My Lord and my God." But Jesus responds with something powerful. "Because you've seen me, you've believed. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed." John 20:29. That's us. We haven't seen Jesus in the flesh, but we're invited to believe anyway. The resurrection wasn't just an event. It was a mission. Jesus didn't just rise and disappear. He spent 40 days with his disciples, teaching them, preparing them. And then before ascending to heaven, he gives them a mission. Go and make disciples of all nations. And surely I'm with you always to the very end of the age. Matthew 28:19-20. This is the turning point. Up until now, the disciples had been followers. Now, they were leaders. The message of Jesus wasn't meant to stay in Jerusalem. It was meant to change the world. What does the resurrection mean for us today? Hope is greater than fear. The disciples went from terrified to unstoppable. Why? Because they knew death wasn't the end. If Jesus defeated the grave, then there's no situation in our lives he can't redeem. Number 2, faith isn't about having all the answers. Thomas doubted, and the disciples doubted, but Jesus didn't reject them. He met them where they were. Faith isn't about having perfect certainty. It's about trusting in what we do know. Jesus didn't just rise. He invites us to rise too. The resurrection isn't just about what happened to Jesus. It's about what happens to us. It means we're no longer defined by our past. It means sin, shame, and fear don't have the final say. Easter isn't just about an empty tomb. It's about a love so strong it shattered death itself. It's about betrayal, suffering, and sacrifice, but ultimately, it's about redemption and hope. Maybe you felt like your mistakes are too big, like you've gone too far. Easter proves that's not true. The real question is, what will you do with this story? Jesus didn't stay in the grave, and neither should we. It's time we step into the life he's called us to. If this video made you see Easter in a new way, let me know in the comments. And if you want to learn more about the Bible's hidden lessons, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Thanks for watching, and happy Easter.